Hi, Jim here, and you're listening to the Honest Filmmaker podcast, career advice from people in the business. This week, I'm speaking to filmmaker and podcaster Victor Hughes. Vic is a freelance filmmaker making his day-to-day money doing wedding videos, commercials, and music videos. He also hosts the Psychocinematic podcast, where he interviews filmmakers and talks about the process of filmmaking and storytelling. He's recently shot his first short film, Desert Trip, so I talked to Vic about what it's like shooting wedding videos, how that could potentially be a good way to earn some money if you're just leaving university, also how stressful they can be because they're the most important day of someone's life. We talked about shooting commercials. We also talked about his short film and, of course, the podcast and some of the amazing guests he's had on it. Enjoy. Let's start off with how you got into filmmaking.
So I guess like going way back, I just kind of wanted to be an actor when I was a kid. Even doing the school projects on like what career you want to do. And I want to do acting, but then as I got older, it kind of felt like this far-fetched idea, maybe because a lot of people told me it was. But I also I didn't want to act in plays, and that seemed like the first thing that I could do. And I was like, well, I want to be in shows and movies, like that kind of thing. So I was like, well, if I have to do plays, then I don't know if this is for me. And I don't think that's how you have to do it, but that was just what I thought as a kid. But simultaneously, I had a camera in my hands most of my life. I remember getting a camcorder pretty young and just filming my brother and friends, skateboarding. And then we would make, I feel like most people make monster movies or their own little things with their friends if they're into cameras, and that kind of developed into in high school taking some media classes and liking that even more. And um, but I still kind of just didn't really imagine that it could be a career for me because I was the idea of being freelance or like I don't have a steady paycheck coming in, was scary. So I went to school to be a cop.
Oh,
um
right.
yeah, I got a 2-year degree in law enforcement, and then was like I applied once, and I was like, what am I doing? I like this is my plan B.
Mm.
I was like, I should really just pursue the media stuff. And so it unfortunately took me, it was like 3 years of going to school, however many thousands of dollars and all that, to then determine, all right, I want to pursue this camera stuff. And around that time, my wife and I were traveling a lot. And so I was trying to, use it as an opportunity to make some videos of like the traveling and photos. And it was just a lot of trial and error, YouTube University, and then eventually doing it enough on the side where people like eventually gave me chances of like paying me, and then being like, okay, I think, I might be able to make a living out of this, making videos, as like a freelance videographer, that I could quit my day job at a warehouse and pursue this full time. And I eventually did that. But then when it comes to films, I kind of, even up until like maybe like a year and a half ago, was kind of like, yeah, I'm never gonna like, I don't think I'm gonna make any films. Like the times that I have is for, like short horror film contests, and
Mm.
I never really did good at those. Because I mean, most people's beginning films just aren't that great, and you kind of don't really understand the whole nature of it all. But through my podcast and my love for movies, I've learned a ton, and also through my day-to-day job as a freelance videographer, I've learned a lot more about making a cinematic video and telling a story, and just even crafting a story. And so then it wasn't until I don't I think someone asked me if I would ever make a film, and I had still said no. But then I
Mm.
had an idea in my head, and I was like, I might actually be able to make this a reality. And having a couple short filmmakers on my podcast, kind of built up that dream of mine. And I told one of them about my idea after the podcast, and they're like, "Oh yeah, that sounds cool." And even still at that point, because my son was just born, that was like beginning of this year or last year, and he followed up with me like a month later. He's like, "Hey, how's that script coming?" And I was like, "Fuck!" I haven't even started it. And I was like, all right, I'm doing it. So I was
Cracking
like,
on with it.
thank you for, yeah, following up, because, that kind of lit the fire under my butt to finally make a film. And now I don't want to stop, because I just wrapped on my first, what I consider my first like true film, like the one where I feel like I didn't cut the corners. I storyboarded, I wrote it, like I
Mm.
thought about the costumes, all the symbolism that I wanted. I wanted to make sure I got the actors. I was scheduling everything. I was doing everything that I could to make it as official as possible. So
Yeah.
now I consider myself a filmmaker.
Right. Okay. All right. So what I'm taking from that is did it at school, left it for a while, realized you loved it, came back to it as a freelancer, which a lot of people do straight out of school, end up doing the freelancing thing, which is then giving you the kind of storytelling tools to now work on a short film and hopefully a feature, which I'll ask you about a little later on. Um, so looking at it from somebody who is leaving, say, college or university and thinking of becoming a freelancer, I noticed on your website you do wedding videos, which
Hmm.
20 years ago would have been something to sniff at, but now it's a huge industry. And it makes me nervous even talking about it, because I imagine it's a super stressful job. And wedding videos are now like watching a film. They've got drone shots in them and slow-mo and all sorts. So what is that like? Is it as stressful as it looks? And is it a good earner? Is it a good way to sort of cut your teeth doing wedding videos?
Yeah. Yes, it is as stressful as it sounds or as it looks.
Mm.
There's been some hectic times. Like, luckily, there's nothing that's been like, too bad in my career of doing weddings, because I think I did my first wedding video in 2018, and it's just kind of like every year just gone up a little bit more and more. And yes, they are high earners, at least in terms of like, when you think about how much time you put into them, maybe it's not
Mm.
like as high as maybe some of the other ones. It's close, but because like you got to think, for a wedding video, that's anywhere from 6 to 12 hours of filming with them, and then however many hours it takes you to edit the full video, which for me, I feel like it takes a full 24 hours worth of editing to edit a wedding video. Um, and, of course, you don't do that all in one stint. So that's like sprinkled throughout, however many weeks. And because like last thing I want to do is edit someone's video while I am tired and burn out, because I
Mm.
don't want to cut corners on their video. I want to give them the video that they, deserve and paid for. Um, yes, so it's very stressful, and it's really hard, though, sometimes to make them as cinematic. You really have to be quick at thinking, all right, what's the best angle? Where's the light coming from? Where's, like, they're going to be coming down this way, or, just acting on the fly. Like, I can't tell you how many times like things don't go the way you thought it would. And now you have to think right on the spot, and you have to get really well acquainted with your gear and all that stuff. I mean, if someone's looking to get into the wedding videos, I think with most things, you kind of have to start with your pricing low, or do it for free. Just that way, it's kind of less stress for you. Like, if you messed up their wedding, but they agreed to, like,
Yeah.
bring you on, then, like, everyone knows what they're getting into at that point. But
Mm.
that way, you can kind of get some practice and see if you actually like doing that, because there are times where I'm like, this is so stressful. Like, I don't know if I can continue doing this.
I can
Because like
imagine.
even just like going for a bathroom break, like you gotta be strategic about that stuff. And like, God forbid if I get sick for a wedding or anything like that, like, because then you just gotta put up with it, and
Mm.
bring the tissues and all that stuff. So I felt like there was one other part of your question that I'm forgetting to answer.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I asked you about five in one go. I mean, I guess no, you've answered it. What do you shoot the weddings on?
So it's changed over the years. Like, the very first wedding that I shot, I was on a Canon T7i. And then eventually, after like a year of doing videography, I upgraded to the Canon 1DX Mark II. And then I recently just bought a Canon R6 Mark II just because, mainly because it will record for over 30 minutes without stopping, which you have no idea. I mean, you probably know how annoying
Mm.
that is, but
Mm.
most people don't know how annoying that is and why that was ever a feature in cameras and why it took so long for that to change. And even though this isn't like Canon's like main video or film camera, amongst this line, I think it does a really good job. But so I now use the 1DX Mark II as the second shooter. I want to incorporate my Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera, the 6K Pro, but using it for films and other things that aren't as high stakes, I noticed some quirks about it that could easily blow up in my face for a wedding. So I don't know if I really have the confidence in that camera to deliver, only in the sense because like I'm not sure if you've used that camera specifically or a camera like it where when you turn on the camera, it's like it has to sit there for like 2 minutes before you can even record. You know, like it's not
Yeah.
ready to like read the drive, and then um, the drop frames, super annoying. You know, I
Mm.
have a really good hard drive in there, and you know, when I shoot it, granted, I probably wouldn't be shooting a wedding at 6K, but if there's a drop frame in there and I just happen to not notice it and then kept recording, like sometimes that ruins the whole file. So it's
Yeah.
just little things like that where I'm like, I don't know if I would trust this. But like, you know, shooting a film, I will notice it and then we can just do it again if we need to. So,
Yeah.
and it, because honestly, it's got such a beautiful image. Like, I wish I could just use it the whole wedding because I know that it would make my job a lot easier of making it look cinematic.
Yeah, definitely. Funnily enough, I was speaking to a guy the other night who shot an entire action movie on that camera. And
Mm,
my comment to him was, there's no autofocus. How on earth do you, for a wedding or something like that, not having the camera automatically focus on stuff would be a nightmare. And like you say, it looked
hmm
beautiful, camera looks beautiful, but not having to also, if you want that autofocus, then you've got to lock all these bits on it. And then suddenly it's this big monster that you've got to build every time you get it out of the bag. Ugh,
hmm
stressful. Um, so you also do commercials, music videos, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Is there anything from the wedding videos that kind of translates into those other styles of filming, do you think?
You know, part of the reason that I love wedding videos so much is because both parties know what they're getting into. And it's just a straightforward business relationship and like communication, everything like that. I love doing music videos with people who I know are serious, but the problem is that artists can be artists and therefore bad at business. And so then it's like, you know, they either like they can flake on you or, you know, you spend all this time coming up with concepts for them and then all of a sudden there's no budget and
Mm.
you're just like, I just wasted so much time doing this. And like, I wish I could do more of these wedding or not wedding music videos, um, wedding videos as well. But it's just pretty taxing. So like the similarity is not there, like in terms of like the structure. Maybe so with the commercial stuff, but
Mm.
that is I don't do as many commercials as I wish I did. I feel like these days in like the age of TikTok and stuff, it's kind of hard to communicate value to people who are constantly told that it's better if you just shoot it on your phone, content wise, and then
Mm.
they go with the content rather than the commercial, which both have their place. Uh, but it does stink, you know. I don't know if it's fully this area's fault, but I feel like there's not a ton of value put on video. There's a ton put on photo in our area, but it
Mm.
like even with weddings, like I hear it all the time where people don't want like it's they're not even considering a video. They just don't want one, don't see why they would need one. And that always surprises me just because like
Mm.
every social media app these days is all about video or the fact that it's just like pictures, but they move. Like I don't know why you don't want both, but I think that's a I'm not sure exactly where you live, but like I am in Reno, and you know, I would imagine that they don't have that problem over in LA. I
Yeah.
would imagine that most people understand or like understand the value of video, but also like really want video for everything,
Mm,
you
mm. Yeah.
know.
Yeah. And it's an important moment. I mean, we got married quite a while ago, and I wish we had a proper video, but we
Same.
don't. We just have, and no one, like when we got married, no one had video cameras on their phones, so there's not even that backup of people there. I think I set a camera up on a tripod, and maybe we shot the speeches and some other ceremony. But yeah, the bits that you I miss would be seeing things, especially if you're the bride and groom, seeing things that happen that you weren't aware of, because it's such a roller coaster. When you get married, you're kind of pulled from direction to
Hmm.
direction, and you miss out on little fun things that happen, and sort of
Yeah.
seeing the whole thing. Um,
Mm.
so then you've gone on to do this short film. What made you? You said you come up with the idea. Did you, with financing it, you did like a GoFundMe style thing, did you, or did you do crowdfunding for it?
Yeah, so it was crowdfunding. I looked at the different websites that I could, utilize for that stuff, and there was never an ideal website because everyone's going to take their cut of the money, or there's websites where it's like if you don't hit the goal, then all the money just goes back to everyone, and it's like I just did all the legwork to get, you know, 10 to 20 people to donate, like just because I didn't hit the mark, that would really suck to lose like
Mm,
$2,000 when the goal was like mine 3,500. So I was like, I'm going to do it on my website. There, I'll still lose 3% of every transaction because I think it was through PayPal.
mm,
Um, but I was like, I'm just going to try and create a compelling case as to why people should give me money to make a film if they feel generous, like
yeah.
why I think now's a good time, why I think I could do it. And I was not sure for a while whether or not I wanted to even ask for money because I'm like, it feels so weird to ask people to give me money to pursue my passion project. And when I set out to do it, like my only goal was to make a film that I was proud of. I had no intention of entering film festivals or doing anything else with it. It would just be like, make a film that doesn't get rushed at all, that I can, like hang my hat on and be like, yes, I like that. That was great. And then just put it out to YouTube. But then after I made the film and then was like, all right, I am very proud of this. Now I
Mm,
need more. Now I'm going to film festivals. Uh, but yeah, so the crowdfunding was a little nerve wracking. And, it's funny because I think even with like, social media followings and whatnot, I think the only people who donated the only people who donated are people that I know personally. It
mm,
was never
mm,
anyone who I've never met or anything like that.
yeah.
The furthest removed, I guess, would be a podcast guest donating,
Yeah.
um, who I now consider a friend. So but we just haven't met in person before.
Yeah. And that's tough because I've not done crowdfunding myself. But imagine trying to raise $100,000 on crowdfunding. How stressful must
Yeah,
that be? I mean, I've chatted to people who've done it, and it sounds like a relentless
yeah,
um, war that you have to wage over the course of that month. And you
mm,
don't even know if you're going to get there, and you've got to just constantly put out content. Oh God, yeah, it sounds like a tough one, but
yeah,
some people have done it successfully. So then, your podcast,
mm.
Psychocinematic, um, talking to some amazing people on there. So, what made you start that? Why did you suddenly go, right? I'm going to chat to film people.
Yeah. So it's funny because the podcast came around. I didn't really even have intention or any intention of like interviewing filmmakers because it started I think in like 2021 or so, just because I started watching movies at basically, to back up a little bit more, I used to always watch movies, but then
Mm,
I found somewhere along the way I stopped watching movies and couldn't even focus on movies, and I was like, I think I'm looking at my phone too much. So I was like, I'm gonna make it a point to get back to where I was and what I love to do. So I'm just gonna put the phone down, watch something I've never heard of, and this is also a really I kind of miss these times in the sense of like I didn't even know people were talking about movies online and like I don't know when TikTok exactly came out, but like I
Mm.
didn't realize there was this whole movie talk and all this stuff. So I didn't like feel like any pressure to compete or anything like that. So I was just watching these movies, fell in love with them, and I was like, they are so crazy. Most of the people around me haven't heard of these movies. Like I need to talk about them with someone. And uh my wife would watch most of them with me, but I was like, it's not good enough. I need to talk to more people.
Mm.
And so I was like, I just need to like make a video about everything that I thought about them. And it's kind of cringy now listening to some of them from me, just because even in this time, like the way that I think about movies has changed dramatically. Um, and even just like with my demeanor about like how I would review something. And like I hardly call what I do now reviewing, because a lot of times I feel like I'm not, where it's like, who am I to critique Interstellar? It's just like, because I mean, that's as close to a 10 as I feel like you can ever get. But like, there are still things where I'm like, I don't know about the science here.
Mm.
There's like a handful of things, but I'm also like, yeah, who am I to like
Yeah.
say whatever? And anyway, so then it got to the point where someone had sent me, I think it was my first like filmmaker guest. The production company sent me the film. I believe it was Mean Spirited was the first one. Um, and I was flattered that someone wanted me to watch their film like for free and before it got released. I was like, that's cool. Like, yeah, I'll check it out. And so I watched it and then watched it again. Um, and then I learned that the main actor was also the director. I was like, oh, well, that's cool. And I was like, oh, I think he also wrote it. Um, Jeff Ryan is his name. And anyway, he was down to come on the podcast. So I was like, okay, well, cool. I can just ask him about my thoughts on the film.
Yeah.
And then it kind of just got a little bit bigger, in the sense of like more people kind of were willing to come on, just, with every uh, guest, and just seeing that it's now a regular thing that I'm talking to these people. So that is really cool. And then it felt like, I think somewhere around Blue Eye Samurai felt like my podcast break of like, okay, like these are some well established in the industry people who, worked on huge Disney and Marvel movies and all this stuff. And now it feels like um, I have like some credibility and like something to be like, look, this person came on. Do you want to come
Mm.
on? And that I feel like only helps if they read your message, but because that's the thing, is like trying to get through to anyone is really freaking hard. That's the worst part about the podcast, is trying to
Yeah.
get yes. Ugh, yeah.
Yeah, that's a tough one. That is a tough one reaching people. But most people are really easy to chat to.
hmm
So is there anyone who have you had on who you've totally geeked out about? You've been like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm chatting to this person.
One of the, I think he was the first big filmmaker that I had on, and it was actually before Blue Eye Samurai, and it was Lorcan Finnegan, um, who directed Vivarium, and he's
Hmm.
got like a new one with Nicolas Cage coming out soon, The Surfer. Because that was one of my favorite movies. And I was like, no way. Like, and this movie's already been out for a couple years. And so to ask a filmmaker, like, hey, do you want to come on and talk about one of your older films, which I'm not above it. I will do it all the time. And be like, I really
Hmm.
like this movie. Would you like to come on? So I thought that was cool. And I had sent him one of these shirts after the podcast too. And the fact that he sent me a photo of him wearing it back, I was like, no way. Like, that's fucking sick. And then I would say probably the person that I've geeked out the most having on though is Jack Carr, the author of The Terminalist.
Hmm.
Um, just because, I've now read all of the Terminalist books, which there's 7 of them. So that's a long time to like live inside someone's brain. And so to have him come on was like super cool. Um, but yeah, there's been a handful, and maybe not at first did it feel like, wow, I can't believe but it's like afterwards and reflecting, like, man, I just like it felt like the conversation went really well. I learned a ton, and it just feels super cool.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean, and I find it no matter what, even like even I talked to Rob Berman, who's a prosthetics guy who worked on I always forget the name of it, but it's an 80s sci-fi Hunters from the Forbidden Zone or something like this, and it didn't
Mm,
do very well. It's a bit of a ropey movie, but was an integral part of my childhood. And just chatting to someone who was there on set, do you know what I mean? When they made that film, it's just incredible. Um, and do you so for someone who wants to work in film or television, have you noticed anything similar about all these people? Is there any kind of
mm.
common thread in their personality or in the way the things they've said to you?
First and foremost, it seems like they're all extremely passionate, and then that
Mm,
passion either leads to the talent or they're passionate because they are talented in the thing, kind of thing.
mm,
But I think about one of the coolest guests that have been on, Jane Wu, who was the supervising director on Blue Eye Samurai,
mm,
and she said something that I feel like really resonated with me. It's basically uh, like, is your sword sharp? Whatever. Like, are your skills honed in to for when that opportunity does happen,
mm.
like that you're ready to capitalize on it. And I would imagine that, like with everyone, there's probably a good amount of luck that happens, but that is like the luck would be for naught if they weren't prepared for that thing. And then I think about like Brian Kessinger, who was the lead character designer on Blue Eye Samurai. He just threw out like a Hail Mary submitting his portfolio to Disney and then actually gets contacted, and he's still in high school. Like he was mainly looking for feedback, but his skills were sharp and then he was ready to go, like as soon as he graduated basically, or when he turned 18. And I hear a lot of stories like that, or just
Mm.
the people who just do and keep doing because they love it, and then eventually it happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've done one of these on myths you get told when you're at uni, on a student, and that really relates to that. It's about sort of looking for opportunities and making sure you're ready for them when they actually pop up, like you say, being ready to jump on them, but actually actively going out and looking for them. Because a lot of the time people do say things like, "Oh, right place, right time," but it's like, well, that is sort of semi-true. But
Hmm.
you were looking, and you were ready when it happened.
Yeah.
Um, so looking back on last year, what TV film? What are some of your kind of favourite things from last year?
My favorite film was Strange Darling.
Oh
That
yeah, yeah, yeah,
you got to see it?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I went and saw that by myself on my birthday because my birthday was on like a weekday, and I was like, all right, guys, well, I'm gonna go see a movie. And I was just so delighted and pleasantly surprised with how good it was. Because a lot of the movies that I'll choose to go see, like I will have only just heard of them. I've never seen a trailer, but I'm like, this seems promising, and that was just fantastic. Um, TV show wise, like, I've done a handful of episodes on
Hmm.
and From, obviously gets compared to Lost a lot. And Lost, was like a crazy, like, phenomena of a show, like with how it captured everyone's attention. And I think, I, as well as all the fans, are really hoping that it doesn't go the same trajectory as Lost, where it kind of like plummeted in terms of our engagement with the story. But I mean, seeing or speaking with some of the people involved, it seems like they all care too much to ever let it go like that.
Yeah.
But I just can't remember a time in recent years being that excited to watch a show when it comes out the next week. I told one of the guests that basically, like, even with shows like Game of Thrones or something like that, when you have to wait 1 week in between episodes, I often am like on Sunday, like trying to hype myself back up to get back into it because now I got to remember everything that happened, and
Mm.
where after I'm in there for like 5 or 10 minutes, all right, now I'm locked back in. But with From, it wasn't like that, and so that I feel like is a testament to me of like just how much I enjoyed it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So from I think I've done one season of that. and I think I was conscious of the lost thing, and I was thinking, do they know where this is going? That's the main worry: is do they know where this is going, and is it going to
Yeah.
finish? That's what I want to know. So
hmm
yeah, let me know, and then you can save me watching it all once it's finished, and then I can go through them all.
Yeah. They say
And
they know
yeah,
where it's going,
they say,
but
they said that with Lost,
everyone
didn't
would
they?
say that. Yeah, yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Strange Darling, the question I wondered about that, I'd love to chat to someone about that film who's worked on it. Is there an edit of that film where it doesn't tell you you're entering a chapter and it doesn't tell you what
Oh,
chapter that is? So I wonder whether it was written like that. It was all out of sequence, and you as the audience had to kind of figure out where in the story you were. And if at some point
mm,
someone said, "Oh, we better put chapters on this, otherwise it's going to confuse
yeah.
the audience," that would be interesting to me to know whether
Yeah.
that was done later on.
That's a great question because I could see a lot of frustration welling up if they didn't put the numbers on there.
Yeah.
Um, Maybe a little bit more engagement because I feel like I just remember watching Inception for the very first time in theaters, but I was in like, I don't know, eighth grade. And so I was like, just in the first 10 minutes, my brain felt like it was being like wrung out. And I was just like, dude, I'm struggling so hard. And by the end of it, I felt like, I understood which timeline everything was on.
Mm,
Did I understand the rest of the movie? Probably not. Um, but yeah, I feel like it could have potentially even given them more buzz if they didn't write it
mm,
like that. But I enjoyed seeing the numbers,
mm,
and I was trying to remember throughout the film like what order it went in. It was like four, five, one, two, and what I want to know is like, how do you know that's the best way to tell the story without pissing off the audience and making it feel like you're doing too much to a
mm,
story that maybe wasn't creative enough. And so you felt like this was the better way, which I don't think that's the case for them, but I am curious how you knew, because it seems like a fine line to walk,
mm.
like the non-linear storytelling.
So one thing I was going to ask you, one of my fun questions I always ask everybody is, have you got a motto?
It's a good question. I don't think I do repeat anything in my head that is like that keeps me going or anything like that. Uh, I don't have one, but what I do have, this would be the closest thing that, and it's by my computer for this reason. Um, Jane Wu had signed a Blue Eyes Samurai poster for me, but she quoted one of the episodes, and she said, "Victor, revenge is an art," and I was like, "Sweet." So like anytime I'm just like, I gotta
That's a good
I gotta
motto.
do
You should
better.
keep
Like
that.
that's the way you
Revenge
get
is
your
sweet.
revenge.
Yeah, revenge is
Yeah.
sweet. That's nice. That's
I don't
nice.
feel particularly vengeful, but there are the days that where you're just like, why am I not further? Like, why have I not done more? Why, this person's pissing me off or whatever. And it does kind of like just give me the little extra oomph. And if nothing else, the fact that Chu and I have a way to do all that is
Mm,
kind of like a reminder to me that like I'm going the right direction. I'm doing the right things. The trajectory's there. Just patience, you know.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You've come a long
Yeah. What
way.
about you? Do you have one?
I mine is well on a film set and in life. I think I got this one from my parents. Is if you don't laugh, you'll cry. So
Mm,
sometimes you just have to laugh when things don't go your way, and especially if you're making a feature film and things just some days you just got to laugh at it and just not try to take it too personally or get upset with it. So I think that's
yeah.
probably mine. Or the other one I quote is, if you fail to prepare, you are prepared to fail. So
hmm
that whenever you're making any sort of film, like you said, storyboards, pre-production, all of that stuff is the stuff that makes you have an extra set of armor when you actually come to shoot something, and it also
Yeah.
enables you to be a bit more agile and a bit more able to deal with change because you've got this book or this thing. I don't know about you. I always have a folder, with all my terribly drawn storyboards in it,
hmm
which is kind of my Bible that I can go to should I get lost when I'm
Yeah.
actually on set.
Yeah. I got. I had my wife bring home a clipboard from the school that she teaches at. I was like, I need a clipboard, script,
Clipboard.
storyboard. Yep.
Yeah. Something to hold on to
Yeah.
as well. But it's also something I always lose it. I'm like, where is it? Where's my boards gone? Someone's nicked them. Now I've got to worry about glasses, which is even more annoying. But
That's funny.
definitely need to do that.
When you brought up the mantra on a film set, that just reminded me of one of the guests I had on. She was Eriko Miyagawa. She was a producer, or no, she was a translator. She was a producer on Shogun, but a translator on Kill Bill.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, I was asking her about like what it's like working with Quentin Tarantino, and she's like, it's so fun. And he would always say like, okay, I think we got it, but let's do one more because we love filmmaking. Like I think about that, and because you hear a lot about like, oh my God, the amount of takes that this director wants to do, and some do sound like they border on excessive. But I think it's really easy to get caught up in like on the day of shooting how exhausting it is, and like both physically and mentally, and then just remembering that quote from him is something I think we can all benefit from.
Yeah, definitely. And I get stick from my actors because I'm always going one more, and I do it even if, and I'm not doing it for fun. I'm doing it for because I'm got anxiety that something's gone wrong or something's out of focus. I've missed something. Someone's wearing the wrong hat or whatever. But you've always got to do one more, even if the last one was perfection. I don't know how Clint Eastwood does it. I think he does one take, doesn't he, and then goes right lunch. Yeah, couldn't do that. I have to do an extra one just in case. Hope you enjoyed that episode. If you'd like to hear from more industry professionals, how they got into the business and how you can do the same, or you just want to listen to some cool stories from movie sets around the world, then please do subscribe to the Honest Filmmaker podcast.